remembered them too. But it happened that it was you, and my father and I, will always be grateful. We both hope we may see you in Seattle. What are you planning to do there? What is your ambition? Or is that a rude question? Why, what I mean, how did you happen to want to go there with a garage at home? You still control it." "Oh, yes. Left my mechanic in charge. Why, I just kind of decided suddenly. I guess it was what they call an inspiration. Always wanted a long trip, anyway, and I thought maybe in Seattle I could hook up with something a little peppier than Schoenstrom. Maybe something in Alaska. Always wished I were a mechanical or civil engineer, so—" "Then why don't you become one? You're young. How old are you?" "25. We're both children. Compared with some men who are my friends. You're quite young enough to go to engineering school, and take some academic courses on the side, English, so on. Why don't you? Have you ever thought of it?" "No, I hadn't thought of doing it, but—" "All right, I will. In Seattle. Believe the University of Washington is there." "You mean it?" "Yes, I do. You're the boss." "That's flattering. But do you always make up your mind as quickly as this?" "When the boss gives orders." He smiled, and she smiled back, but this time it was she who was embarrassed. "You're rather overwhelming. You change your life, if you really do mean it, because a jeune fille from Brooklyn is so impertinent, from her Olympian height of finishing school learning, as to suggest that you do so." "I don't know what a jeune fille is, but I do know—" He sprang up. He did not look at her. He paraded back and forth, 3 steps to the right, 3 to the left, his hands in his pockets, his voice impersonal. "I know you're the finest person I ever met. You're the kind— I knew there must be people like you, because I knew the Joneses. They're the only friends I've got that have—oh, I suppose it's what they call culture." In a long monologue, uninterrupted by Claire, he told of his affection for the Schoenstrom prof and his wife. The practical, slangy Milt of the garage was lost in the enthusiastic undergraduate adoring his instructor in the university that exists as veritably in a teacher's or a doctor's sitting room in every Schoenstrom as it does in certain lugubrious stone hulks, recognized by a state legislature as magically empowered to paste on sacred labels lettered Bachelor of Arts. He broke from his revelations to plunk down on the bench beside her, to slap his palm with his fist, and sigh, "Lord, I've been gassing on. Guess I bored you." "Oh, please, Milt, please. I see it all so. It must have been wonderful, the evening when Mrs. Jones read Noyes' Highwayman aloud. Tell me, long before that, were you terribly lonely as a little boy?" Now Milt had not been a terribly lonely little boy. He had been a leader in a gang devoted to fighting, swimming, pickerel spearing, beggy stealing, and catching rides on freights. But he believed that he was accurately presenting every afternoon of his childhood, as he mused, "Yes, I guess I was, pretty much. I remember I used to sit on Dad's doorstep, all those long, sleepy summer afternoons, and I'd think, 'Oh, gee, I wished I had somebody to play with.' I always wanted to make believe Robin Hood, but none of the other kids, so many of them were German, they didn't know about Robin Hood, so I used to scout off alone. If I could only have been there to be Maid Marian for you. We'd have learned archery." Lonely little boy on the doorstep. Her fingers just touched his sleeve. In her gesture, the ember light caught the crystal of her wristwatch. She stooped to peer at it, and her pitying tenderness broke off in an agitated, "Heavings! Is it that late? To bed. Good night, Milt. Good night, Miss Boltwood. No, Claire, of course. I'm not normally a first name snatcher, but I do seem to have fallen into saying Milt. Night." As she undressed in her tent, Claire reflected, "He won't take advantage of my being friendly, will he? Only thing is, I shan't dare to look at Henry B. when Milt calls me Claire in that sedate Brooklyn Heights presence. The dear lamb. Lonely afternoons." End of chapter 13.